To the naked eye, it looks like a misty little cloud, but through a telescope, it's a breathtaking swarm of diamonds. And next right to it, it burns blood-red eye. That connects the delicate Pleiades cluster to the fiery giant Aldebaran. Ancient cultures see them not just as stars, but as symbols of life, death, and cosmic order. In this video, we explore the celestial neighborhood of Taurus the Bull. We look at the mythology behind the shapes, astronomy behind the haze, and why these objects have captivated humanity for millennia. Let's get into it. First, let's start with Greek mythology. Based on Greek mythology, Europa was a very beautiful and attractive girl. She was a princess of Phoenicia. Phoenicia is the coastal lands of modern-day Lebanon and Syria, and often walked by the sea with her friends. Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, who was famous for his love affairs with mortal women, saw Europa and instantly fell in love with her. To get close to her and deceive his jealous goddess wife Hera, he decided to disguise himself in an unrecognizable form. Zeus transported himself into a stunning white bull. This bull was more beautiful and majestic than any others. Its horns curved like a crescent moon. Fascinated by the beauty and dignity of this white bull, Europa set aside her fear. The bull appeared tame and gentle, resting its head on Europa's hands to be petted. Europa, thinking it was an ordinary animal, first began to decorate the bull's horns with flowers. Then, encouraged by her friends, she climbed up from its head to its back. As soon as Europa sat on the bull's back, Zeus seized the opportunity. The bull suddenly leaped forward and began to run at an incredible speed. It sprinted past the shore, jumped into the sea, and while the terrified Europa clung to its horns, carried her across the Mediterranean Sea to a distant island. Zeus brought Europa to the island of Crete, where he revealed his true identity. Two sons were born to Zeus and Europa. To commemorate this important event in the mythological history, Zeus placed the image of that white bull in the sky as the constellation Taurus. For this reason, only the front half of the bull, the head, the horns, and shoulders, is visible in the sky, representing the bull swimming and crossing the sea, while its rear half remains underwater. It should be noted that constellation Orion, the hunter, is seen perpetually chasing the Pleiades cluster. According to Greek mythology, Pleiades were 7 daughters of mighty Atlas, whom Orion the hunter pursued. To escape him, they were transferred into 7 doves. Europa, this star, had no interest in Orion, and eventually married to a mortal king named Zeus. Orion the hunter also chasing Merope's other sisters and their mother. Consequently, they prayed to the gods for salvation. In response, the gods answered their prayer and they transferred into the star cluster known as Pleiades. However, because Merope had married a mortal, she became the famous star. It is said that Merope was so ashamed of her husband's sin that she hid herself among the others. The arrangement of this constellation in the sky symbolized the eternity of this conflict. Taurus the Bull with its horns, the Pleiades cluster and its red-eyed Aldebaran stands in an attacking and defensive posture opposite Orion. Pleiades, the seven sisters, are located in the shoulder region of Taurus, seemingly hiding behind the Taurus to stay safe from the Orion. Orion the hunter is always pursuing the Pleiades across the sky, but it is halted by Taurus and confronts the bull's eye. Ptolemy in his book Almagest recorded objects like Beehive cluster as nebular stars, Claudius stars. However, regarding the Pleiades, Ptolemy and ancient astronomers could easily see and count its main stars sharply and distinctly with the naked eye. For this reason, Ptolemy categorized the Pleiades in the Almagest as distinct star cluster, not a nebulous object. Although the Pleiades were not on Ptolemy's list of nebulae, Abu Ma'shar Balkhi in these astrological books such as Kitab Madkhal Kabir, the Great Introduction, grouped the Pleiades together with those same Ptolemaic nebulae like Beehive cluster and the Scorpion's sting. That's why in ancient astrology, nebular stars, due to their weak and lazy light, were symbols of poor vision, eye disease, and blindness. Abu Ma'shar and Islamic era astronomers realized that if someone could not resolve the stars of Pleiades and saw it as hazy, it was a sign of weak eyesight. Consequently, for astrological application, the Pleiades acquired the same status as those nebulae. But the astonishing point is that today we know a real dusty nebula, the Murep Cladi Nebula, this Cladi area, as NGC 1435 surrounds the stars of Pleiades precisely, causing its stars to shine in astronomical photographs amid a halo of blue mist. However, this real nebula is very faint and never visible to the naked eye. Therefore, neither Ptolemy nor Abu Ma'shar had seen this real nebula, and their attention to the Pleiades was purely due to the dense clustering of its stars, which sometimes appeared hazy and blurred to naked eyes. But in Arabic mythology, Thurayya, the Pleiades cluster is known as Thurayya, a small compact cluster which is in the west, and Aldebaran or Ein is a reddish star located slightly behind Thurayya towards the east. Al-Ayyur or Capella, the brightest yellow star located above and north of these two, as if sitting at the apex of this love triangle, overseeing and closing the path of Aldebaran's pursuit. In Arabic mythology is completely different with the Greek mythology of Aldebaran and Pleiades and Orion. Capella in the constellation Orion is situated alongside a smaller star named Almaz. I think this star, yes. Almaz meaning goat. This association led Al-Ayyur to also be interpreted as the Bozban in Persian, or goat's guard. Better to know that in Babylon, around 3000 BC, Aldebaran had a vital significance. I mean, at that time, the sun's entry into the constellation Taurus coincided with the vernal equinox, the beginning of the new year. Therefore, Aldebaran was known as the leading star of stars, and initiator of the new agricultural and cosmic cycle in Babylon system, in Babylon culture. ابوریحان بیرونی believed that the root of the word Thurayya comes from the word al-serwa in Arabic, meaning accumulation and multiplicity in number. According to Arab mythology, the moon had decided that Aldebaran should marry the Pleiades. When he proposed to the Pleiades refused the marriage proposal and turned her back on him and said, "What should I do with this wasteland that has no wealth?" Therefore, Aldebaran gathered his Pleiades. Pleiades referred to young camels, the Pleiades cluster, which according to this story, Aldebaran designated as the bright prize or dowry for the Pleiades. Of the 5 bright stars of Pleiades, 4 of them according to the buyer designation are Gamma Tauri, Delta Tauri, Epsilon Tauri, and Theta Tauri, which form an asterism commonly recognized as the head of the bull in the constellation. Al-Ayyub, this glowing star that rises before Gemini, deprives Aldebaran of meeting the Pleiades. So in Arabic they call Aqqa and Laqa and Thurayya, which is why it was named Al-Ayyub. Al-Ayyub in Arabic means preventer. And it is also good to mention that the badge of half-faker or 7 thrones was one of the women's insignia in Iran. Let me to show you the badge of 7 thrones. Or better to search half-faker. Yeah, this one. It is one of the women's insignia in Iran, created in honor of Queen Thurayya. Queen Thurayya was the second wife of the Muhammad Reza Shah, the last Shah of Iran, the last king of Iran. In fact, the name of this badge refers to the Thurayya Esfandiari, the second wife of Muhammad Reza Pahlavi. You can see that 7 stars is given to Farah Diba, the last wife of the Muhammad Reza Shah, and she's the Thurayya herself, the second wife, with his Firuze stones. Okay, let's back to our work. Let's go to the Aldebaran, one of the most important fixed stars in the astrology. The fixed star Aldebaran, whose Persian name is Sadvis, was one of the 4 royal Persian stars, which is located in the constellation Taurus, and because it is positioned near the eye of this constellation, it is also known as Ain al-Sur in Arabic. I mean the eye of the bull. Based on the sidereal system, Aldebaran position is at 16 degrees of the sign of Taurus, and it has a southern latitude of 28 degrees and 5 minutes. This star is of the first magnitude and of the nature of Mars, I think. Let's check it out. Based on Kushyar Gilani, Ain al-Sur is from the first magnitude and of the nature of Mars, and it is maleficious. But based on the majority of astrologers Ainusur, it is also of the nature of Mars and maleficious. Okay. But I remember that Muhyiddin Maghrebi, the other astrologer, introduced Aldebaran as having the nature of Mars and Venus. I have to search the book now, we have no time, but I remember that he described it as the nature of Mars and Venus. Astrological sages compared the red glowing stars like Aldebaran to the red eye of an angry bull and attributed properties similar to the Al-Ghul to this star, believing that among the effects of this star in a native horoscope could be danger of violent death or the danger of death by sudden accident. The luminosity of Aldebaran varies from an apparent magnitude of 0.75 to 0.95, making it the brightest star in this constellation, and usually the 14th brightest star in the night sky. In fact, Aldebaran and Pleiades are not aligned and far apart, but from the perspective of an earthly observer, Aldebaran appears to be chasing the Pleiades. In the book Sobar al-Kawakib by an Iranian astronomer, Abdurrahman Sufi, the gap between the Pleiades and Aldebaran was called Al-Dayiqa, meaning the strait of narrow pass. Because, unlike the Pleiades, the rising of Aldebaran was considered ominous and causes discomfort. Okay, I think it is enough for today. Okay, just good to see that Aldebaran at set. You can see the astronomical data of Aldebaran, rise of meridian and set time of Aldebaran. Good to know that if these maleficious fixed star positioned at the cardinal points and apexes like the ascendant degree, it can be bad for eyesight. Thank you for your attention. I hope you have a good time and see you in the next.